Evan stepped out of his small landing ship with slow, careful steps. His boots touched the soft silver ground of Lunari, a peaceful alien world filled with glowing trees and quiet floating lights. The moment he appeared, every alien around the landing bay froze. Their bright blue eyes widened, their thin ears lifted in fear, and a wave of confused whispers spread through the crowd. They had never seen a human before. But that was not the reason they looked so shocked. To them, something far stranger was happening. Evan had arrived alone. The Lunari people believed every living being needed a partner or a life bond. They believed no mind could stay healthy without constant emotional support. No one on their world walked alone, traveled alone, or slept alone. Every Lunari had at least 2 companions who stayed with them for life. So when Evan stepped out of his ship without any partner, without any companion, without anyone at all, they felt a deep chill. He looked strong, calm, and focused. He carried his bag over his shoulder, glanced at the welcoming platform, and gave a friendly smile. But that smile only made the aliens more uncomfortable. To them, a smile without a companion was a sign of emotional damage. High above the landing bay, the Lunari Council watched the scene with cold interest. They whispered to one another about the human. They talked about danger, emotional collapse, and the risk of a species that traveled alone. Evan did not understand their words, but he felt the tension in the air. He could feel every alien stare digging into him. He wondered if he had done something wrong. He wondered if this mission was already broken before it even started. 2 small guards guided him to a large hall made of crystal-like stone. The walls glowed with soft purple light, and a group of tall Lunari elders stood waiting for him. Evan bowed politely. He kept his voice gentle. He tried to show respect. But the elders did not move. They stared at him with both fear and surprise. One of them finally stepped forward and spoke in a trembling tone. She asked him the question that had been burning in their minds since he arrived. "Human, where is your life bond partner? How are you still alive?" Evan blinked. He thought he heard it wrong. He explained that humans did not always travel with a partner. He explained that humans could live alone, work alone, even explore the stars alone. But the moment those words left his mouth, the entire council gasped. To them, it sounded impossible. They believed his species must be fragile, broken, or sick. They believed Evan was moments away from emotional collapse. They believed he needed urgent support to survive. The council talked among themselves in fast whispers. Evan could not understand all of it, but he heard one sentence clearly. It echoed across the hall like thunder. The human must be protected from himself. Before he could ask what they meant, 2 tiny figures walked into the room. They were small Lunari, barely 3 feet tall, with bright wings and gentle voices. They looked nervous, almost scared. But they stood in front of Evan bravely. The elder announced their names, Lyri and Noma. Then she said something that left Evan stunned. "These 2 will stay with you. They will watch you. They will keep your emotions balanced. Without them, you will not survive." Evan stared at the tiny aliens. They stared back with wide eyes filled with curiosity and fear. He tried to speak, but the council interrupted him. Their voices were soft but firm. They had already made the decision. The human had arrived alone. In their eyes, that meant he was in danger. And now, his life was in the hands of 2 small companions he never asked for. But as Evan looked into their glowing eyes, he felt something strange. Not fear. Not anger. Something else. A warning. Lyri and Noma were scared of more than just loneliness. They were scared of something inside him, something they sensed the moment he walked into the hall. Something he did not even know about himself. Evan tried his best to stay calm while walking out of the council hall with Lyri and Noma quietly following behind him. The tiny alien companions moved with small, fast steps, their soft wings fluttering lightly every time they got nervous. They did not speak much at first. They simply watched him. Every move he made, every breath he took, every expression on his face, they studied it all like scientists observing an unknown creature. Evan could feel their eyes on him even when he pretended not to notice. He wondered if they were afraid of him or afraid for him. Maybe both. Inside the guest chamber prepared for him, Evan placed his bag on the round glass table and sighed. The room felt strange, too quiet, too clean, almost like a hospital. Leary stepped forward the moment he exhaled. She scanned his face with a small glowing device and spoke with worry in her voice. She asked if he was feeling lonely, stressed, or emotionally weak. Evan shook his head and said he was fine. But Leary looked at Noma with deep concern, as if Evan's answer was impossible. The two exchanged fast whispers in their language. Evan caught a few words: unstable, risky, unpredictable. Their fearful tone made him sit up straighter. He asked what they meant, but they ignored the question and began walking around him slowly, checking his heartbeat, temperature, breathing, and even the way he blinked. Evan smiled politely, but inside, he felt awkward. No one had ever watched him this closely. He felt like a child being monitored by worried parents. That night, Evan tried to rest. The room dimmed its lights automatically. He closed his eyes and relaxed into the soft, warm cushion. But just minutes later, he heard a small rustling sound. He opened his eyes and saw Leary standing beside his bed, staring at him with big glowing eyes. Noma stood on the other side, holding a tablet filled with moving lines and flashing signals. "What are you two doing?" Evan whispered, confused. "Checking if your mind is collapsing," Noma replied calmly, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Evan sat up quickly, startled. "Why would it collapse?" Leary lowered her head and answered softly. "Because you are alone." For a moment, Evan did not know whether to laugh or feel insulted. He explained again that humans could live alone without breaking. But his words did nothing. Leary's wings trembled with worry. Noma's eyes narrowed with doubt. They believed loneliness was deadly. They believed silence could damage the mind. They believed humans were fragile creatures who needed constant emotional connection. And since Evan had none, they thought his collapse could happen at any moment. The next morning, the companions followed Evan to the observation platform near the glowing forest. He wanted to explore the environment, breathe fresh air, and enjoy the peaceful view. Instead, he found himself shadowed by two anxious aliens. When Evan climbed a tall rock to see the sunrise better, Leary screamed his name and rushed forward, thinking he was about to harm himself. Evan laughed and assured her he just wanted to see the light. But she did not relax. Noma opened his tablet again and checked Evan's emotional patterns. His eyes narrowed with confusion. Something on the screen did not make sense. "His emotions are rising," Noma whispered. "But not in the way a lonely being breaks. They rise like a shield." Leary looked at Evan carefully, studying the calm confidence on his face. She sensed something strong within him, something the Lunari science did not understand. "He does not break," she whispered. "He becomes stronger." Noma stepped back, shocked. That should be impossible. As Evan walked ahead, unaware of their whispers, the two companions stared at him with growing curiosity and fear. Their mission was simple: protect the human from loneliness. But now, they were starting to wonder if they were the ones who needed protection, from the quiet, powerful strength inside the human who walked alone. Evan walked deeper into the glowing Lunari forest, trying to enjoy the peaceful colors around him. The trees shimmered with soft blue light, their leaves floating like tiny stars each time the wind passed. But behind him, Leary and Noma followed with small, worried steps. They stayed close, watching him the way someone watches a fragile object they fear might break if touched too hard. Evan pretended not to notice, but he could feel their tension like a heavy cloud around them. At one point, Evan stopped near a clear pond. He crouched down and touched the cool water. Leary jumped nervously, thinking he might fall in. Noma quickly measured his heart rate again, shaking his head as if confused by every reading. Evan glanced back at them with a tired smile. "You two really think I am going to fall apart, don't you?" he said softly. Leary stepped forward, embarrassed. "Humans are emotional beings," she said. "Your heart is not built to be alone. It is dangerous for your mind." Evan chuckled, not mocking them but finding their belief strangely innocent. "Where I come from," he explained, "people face loneliness all the time. They grow from it. They fight it. They survive it. It does not break us." But Noma shook his head. "Your emotions rise when you are alone. They rise too fast. That is a sign of collapse." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe it is a sign of something else." They looked at him, confused again. Evan stood and walked along the path, and the two companions rushed after him. They did not understand him at all. Their whole world believed emotional bonding was necessary for survival. Their ancestors wrote laws about it. Their science proved it. Their culture lived by it. So how was the human still standing so calmly? As they moved deeper into the forest, a loud cracking sound echoed behind the trees. Leary grabbed Evan's arm in fear. Noma stepped in front of them, trembling. Evan's eyes narrowed. He knew that sound. Something large was approaching. Before he could warn them, a giant beast burst through the trees. It was tall as a building, with glowing orange eyes and razor-sharp claws. Leary screamed. Noma froze completely. The beast roared and charged straight at them. Evan did not hesitate. He grabbed a broken branch from the ground and pushed Leary and Noma behind him. His body moved with sharp confidence, not fear. He dodged the beast's first strike by a hair. The second swipe cut through the air where his head had been a second earlier. Evan moved fast, far faster than the small aliens believed possible. He ran to the side, threw a stone to confuse the beast, then circled toward its blind angle. His movements were not wild, they were trained, controlled, and calm. Leary watched with wide eyes. Noma's tablet shook in his hands. The beast charged again, but Evan jumped onto a rock, then leaped onto its back. He wrapped his arm around its neck, using weight and leverage instead of brute strength. The beast thrashed violently, but Evan held on. With one last pull, he forced the creature to the ground. It roared, then ran limping back into the forest. Leary covered her mouth in shock. Noma's wings shook so hard he nearly fell over. Evan walked back to them, breathing hard but smiling. "See," he said calmly. "I am fine." Leary stared at him like he was something unreal. "You protected us," she whispered. "Even though you are alone." Noma stared at his tablet, unable to speak. The readings were impossible. Evan's emotional wave had risen during the danger, but it did not collapse like Lanari emotions. It sharpened. It became powerful, stable, and focused. "This is wrong," Noma whispered. "Humans should break under stress." But he becomes stronger. Evan knelt down to look at both of them gently. "Humans survive because we learn to stand alone when we must. Loneliness does not destroy us. It changes us." Leary looked at Evan with a new emotion, respect. Noma looked at him with fear and wonder mixed together. For the first time since they met him, the tiny companions understood something. The human was not fragile. The human was not weak. The human was something far more dangerous. A being who grows stronger in the very conditions that destroy others. And Lanari science had no explanation for that. "Maybe," Leary whispered to Noma, "we are not here to protect him." Noma swallowed hard. "Maybe, he is here to protect us." When Evan, Leary, and Noma returned from the forest, the Lanari guards were already waiting. Their faces were stiff, their eyes sharp, and their hands held glowing cuffs designed for containment. Evan raised an eyebrow, unsure why they looked at him as if he had committed a crime. The guards ordered him to follow them immediately. Leary's wings folded tightly against her back, and Noma clutched his tablet with shaking fingers. Something was wrong, very wrong. They were escorted straight to the High Council Hall. The moment the doors opened, Evan understood everything. The elders stood in a circle, their faces serious, their glowing staffs held upright. The air felt heavy, thick with judgment and fear. At the center of the hall was a strange device, shaped like a chair but surrounded by humming rings of light. Leary gasped and held onto Evan's sleeve. Noma stepped back in terror. Evan looked at the device, then at the elders. "What is this?" he asked calmly. The oldest council member stepped forward, her voice quiet but full of worry. "Human Evan, your emotional wave has risen beyond safe limits. You are unstable. If we do not help you now, your loneliness will destroy your mind, and possibly our people." Evan stared, stunned. "Destroy your people? How?" The elder lifted her staff. "Lonely minds turn violent. They break. They lash out. It is an ancient truth. Your readings match those of a species that once lost control and wiped out an entire valley. They were like you, strong when alone, until they shattered." Leary shook her head desperately. "He is not like that. He protected us. He saved us." But the council ignored her. They believed their scientific history was perfect. They believed Evan's emotional strength was the same as emotional instability. They believed he was seconds away from snapping. Noma stepped forward with trembling courage. "Your readings are wrong," he said. "His emotional rise does not match collapse. It matches something else. Something we do not understand." But the council silenced him too. The elder continued, "This device will connect your mind to Leary and Noma. Once bonded, your mind will stabilize. You will no longer be alone. It is the only way to save you." Evan felt his stomach tighten. A forced mental bond? With no consent? That was not help, that was control. He took a small step backward, but the guards stepped forward instantly. They glared at him with cold determination. To them, this was a rescue mission. To Evan, it felt like a trap. Leary rushed in front of Evan, shaking. "Please, do not do this. You will hurt him. His mind is too strong. It will break the link." The elder raised a hand. "We cannot risk letting a human wander freely with unstable emotions. The procedure begins now." The rings around the device started to glow brighter. A soft hum filled the hall, rising until the walls vibrated. Evan clenched his fists. He had never hurt anyone here, never threatened anyone, never caused harm. Yet they feared him as if he were a ticking bomb. Noma suddenly grabbed Evan's arm. His voice was a whisper, trembling. "We must run. They do not understand you. If they link your mind with ours, all three of us could be destroyed." But there were guards at the door. There were guards on the balcony. There were guards behind the pillars. Escape seemed impossible. Evan stepped forward, raising his hands slowly. Not to surrender, but to speak. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady. "You think I am unstable because I came alone. But where I come from, strength does not come from bonds. It comes from surviving even when there is no one beside us. Loneliness does not break humans. It builds us." The council murmured angrily. Some believed him. Some did not. Some found his words frightening, not comforting. The elder narrowed her eyes. "A mind that grows stronger alone is the most dangerous of all." Evan met her gaze without fear. "You fear what you do not understand." The hum grew louder as the machine reached full power. Leary grabbed Evan's hand tight. Noma stood by his side, wings trembling but refusing to step away. They had come to protect the human, but now they stood ready to protect him from their own people. The guards moved in. The machine activated. And in that moment, the council believed they were saving him. But they were making the greatest mistake their world had ever made. A mistake that would change their understanding of humans forever. The machine's ring spun faster, glowing with sharp white light that washed over the entire hall. The Lunari guards tightened their stance, prepared to force Evan into the device. Leary and Noma stood in front of him like two tiny shields, their wings trembling but their resolve unbroken. They knew the council believed they were saving him, but they also knew the council was about to make a mistake that could break far more than Evan's mind. "Step away," the elder warned sternly. "The procedure cannot be delayed any longer." Leary shook her head, voice shaking but brave. "If you bond his mind to ours, it will not stabilize him. It will overload us. Humans are not weak. You do not understand his heart." But the council had made their decision long before Evan ever arrived. They believed their science. They believed their fears. They believed the humans' emotional patterns were a threat to their entire world. The guards moved in. For a moment, the hall felt breathless, like the air itself waited for what Evan would do. He did not fight. He did not run. He did not shout. Instead, he stepped forward calmly, placing one hand gently on Leary's shoulder and the other on Noma's. They looked up at him with wide, confused eyes. "It is okay," Evan whispered. "Stand with me. No fear." The calmness in his voice sent a ripple across the hall. Humans should not be calm now. Humans should not be composed when facing forced mind bonding. Humans should break. Yet Evan looked like someone walking toward destiny, not danger. He stood in the center of the hall, facing the elders directly. His voice echoed with steady strength. "You think loneliness destroys humans," he said. "But you are wrong. Loneliness is the fire that sharpens us. It is the place where we build courage. When humans stand alone, we do not break, we discover what we truly are." The machine's hum shook the walls, the floor, even the pillars. Several council members hesitated. Others stared, confused, frightened by his words. Evan continued. "You fear that a strong mind is unstable. You fear emotions you cannot measure. But humans learn to survive storms you cannot imagine. Freezing nights. Harsh deserts. Endless space. Silent years. We do not grow weaker. We grow unbreakable." The elder lifted her staff as if trying to silence him, but something had changed. The guards lowered their weapons slightly. Some Lunari looked uncertain now, glancing at each other with doubt. Leary and Noma felt it too. The air shifted. Fear weakened. Curiosity grew. Evan took a breath and finished, quietly. "We do not need a partner to survive. But we choose companions to care." Those words hit the council harder than any weapon. The elders looked at Leary and Noma, at the way they stood protectively beside Evan, not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to. Noma stepped forward slowly, his tiny voice firm for the first time. "We request a new decision. The human does not need forced bonding. He needs understanding. And, if you allow it, we wish to stay with him by choice." Leary nodded fiercely. Not to protect him from loneliness, but to learn from him. The entire hall broke into whispers. The elder lowered her staff. Her expression shifted from fear to realization. "We may have misunderstood humans," she admitted quietly. The buzzing rings around the machine slowed, dimmed, and gradually shut down. The glowing symbols faded until nothing remained but silence. Evan let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. The guards stepped back. The council bowed their heads slightly in apology, something Lunari rarely did. "Human Evan," the elder spoke softly, you have shown us a truth we never imagined. Your strength comes not from bonds, but from the courage to stand even when alone. Evan nodded respectfully. Leary and Noma ran to him, relief flooding their small faces. For the first time, their eyes held no fear, only admiration. The elder continued, "You may stay on Lanari as a friend of our people. And your companions may remain with you, not by duty, but by will." The hall erupted in soft humming, a Lanari expression of respect. Evan smiled. "Thank you. And for the record, humans are not as alone as you think. When someone stands with us by choice, that bond is stronger than anything forced." Leary's wings fluttered happily. Noma stood tall, pride in his tiny chest. As the council dismissed the gathering, the whispered question that once echoed across Lanari changed forever. No longer did they ask, "Can a human survive without a wife?" Now, in quiet tones of wonder, they asked something else. How did a being made to stand alone, end up forming the strongest bond of all? And somewhere in the center of that hall, three figures, one human and two tiny aliens, walked out together, not because fate forced them, but because they chose each other. A new kind of companionship had begun.